Alright, so this is my first video really that I'm starting to film here at the new house and the new lawn. This is basically going to be this is what you do if you move into a new house and you have a brand new lawn and you want to start improving it, you start fixing it. What do you do first? This is what I'm going to be doing first. This is kind of what I'm doing this week. I'm going to be looking at the grass type, trying to identify what's there. I'm going to be taking a look and seeing what kind of weed pressure I have throughout the lawn. I want to do a soil test because I have no idea what this soil is like. I want to identify where things are buried in the lawn, things like sewer lines, things like gas lines, stuff like that. And then I want to do a good solid, in this case I have in-ground irrigation. I don't know anything about it, so I want to inspect that and try to figure out what's wrong with it. Now take a look at this lawn. There are plenty of issues with it. I get the pleasure of fixing it here. All right, we're going to start with the front yard. Of course, I've also got the parkway strip. I've never had a parkway strip ever in my entire adult life. Never had a parkway strip. So the first thought is we got a lot of green. We got this like weird spot here, which some people might think, what's wrong with that ground? Honestly, it's probably just drought. It probably just doesn't get hit by sprinklers. And I'll get to that in a little bit. And we've got a little dandelion there. There's a sprinkler head. We've got obvious weed pressure throughout. Although the lawn isn't overrun by weeds. There's just some. And we obviously have different grass types. So over here, we've got, this is what looks like Bermuda grass seed heads.
What is that?
What's that, baby?
It's a starlight.
Yeah, it's a starlight. There it is. Yeah. So over here, we got some what looks like Bermuda grass seed heads sitting right next to these tall lime green blades of some kind. I'm just going to say of some kind yet because I haven't really analyzed them quite yet. So we've got a vein going down the middle, a nice little pointy top. Over here, the grass types are different. I mean, there is still some of that Bermuda. Most likely it's a common Bermuda, but not for sure. But if you take a look at this, we got a different kind of a seed head coming off of different style grass. You can clearly see it as we come over here. The grass is simply a different style. On a passing glance, you might think it's St. Augustine, but I actually don't believe that this is St. Augustine. Now that grass blade has been cut, but one of the ways you can tell grass apart is when you look at the grass blades that haven't been cut. Let me zoom in here. So as we grab a blade that hasn't been cut, we've got this central vein. It's got this folded sort of thing, but you see how the tip is super duper pointy? St. Augustine grass blades that haven't been cut are not pointy like that. St. Augustine has more of a rounded tip, so it kind of goes up and then it rounds over to the other side and it still has that central vein. And both St. Augustine and this grass have these meaty stems, stolons on the ground. So St. Augustine grass does have a lot of these meaty stems and stolons on the ground, but so does kikuyu grass. Kikuyu grass is another tropical warm season grass that looks quite a bit like St. Augustine grass. The difference is it's a little bit lighter in color and the leaf tips are more pointy. So I have a strong suspicion that this is a kikuyu grass, which can also handle lower levels of water. which is going to be common where I now live. Now, as I come over to other areas of the lawn, we're going to see the same sorts of stuff. This St. Augustine looking grass, but again, I don't think it's St. Aug. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research to make sure. And I might even spray some product on it to see how it responds, because St. Augustine is going to respond differently than other grasses to certain lawn applications. But we've got this, what I believe is kikiu grass, sitting right next to Bermuda, which is thriving here in the full sun. I have a feeling that this area gets a little bit more water with the current sprinkler setup, so it looks a little bit more green here. But it's definitely patchy. Now, I've already had the gas company come out and identify gas lines, so I've got a gas line running this entire way. I'm really tempted to rip everything out or kill everything off or do a full lawn renovation here to this side and remove this really overgrown, I believe it's an aloe vera plant. So I'm going to see if I can find a landscape company that might want this plant whole and see if they can rip the thing out and salvage it and clean it up so that they can resell it, because this is overgrowing our sidewalk. And although it's a beautiful plant, it's not the most child-friendly plant for running around the front yard. As you can see, my kids play outside all the time. Now, as for more grass identification, we've got more of the, what I believe is a dried out kind of a kikiu grass mixed in with some Bermuda. And then these seed heads right here are very different from everything else. If you look really closely at the stem that it's on, I don't know if I can get it on camera. The stem is a triangular stem, which is indicative of nut sedge. So there might be some sedge in here. Not 100% certain, but there certainly is something going on, and that's a bunch of some kind that I'll have to take a closer look at. I'm anticipating there is irrigation in this area. I don't know how well it is installed, but everything does look pretty green with the exception of right up by the driveway. And in a couple little spots, we've got some dried out areas. This whole parkway strip is mine. It looks like the irrigation is probably pretty good over there, but I don't want to irrigate this strip. So I'm tempted to kill everything off and put in a buffalo grass along the strip so that I don't have to irrigate it, nor do I really have to mow it. I'll just have to edge it from time to time. We'll see if I get to that. We'll see how soon I get to that. Here we got an in-ground sprinkler just sitting here, popped up and never went down. There it goes. So anyway, probably in one of these wet spots where the ground is actually a little bit more pliable, I'm going to dig out some soil and do some soil testing on it. I've got a Yard Mastery soil test kit in the garage, which I got to dig out of a box. So I'm going to throw some of that dirt in there and just send it off and just kind of see what it says. But I also want to find a local extension office, some sort of university, some sort of laboratory testing facility, so I can find out a little bit more about the soil, not necessarily the nutrients in the soil, but the soil itself. And then I'm also going to just do a basic jar test. I'm just going to dig out some soil, pull out the roots and rocks, and throw it into a jar of water, shake it up, and see how it settles. Simplest way to figure out if you got sandy, loam, clay, that sort of stuff. You can kind of get a good ballpark estimate of what is in your soil, what it's made of. So I'll be doing that sometime over the next couple days. Now I got one other random thing here in the lawn, here in the front yard only. I'm not even touching on the backyard yet, but the front yard. I'm curious what this is. It looks like it's cool season grass, maybe even a fescue. You talk about a hodgepodge yard, but we've got a whole bunch of the kikiu stuff, which I believe it's the kikiu, and Bermuda. But right up here in the shadier area, because both of those are sun-loving grasses, which is ironic that we've got a lot of Bermuda over there in the shade. But over here, this stuff looks totally different. And it's all laid over.
Okay, I get it.
And it's wet. in the shade so it never seems to dry out. But all of this, I'm curious if this is a fescue or a rye. I don't think it's a rye. If you pull out the bottom here, like, I'm not seeing any magenta down on the bottom, which is a good indication of rye. And these are not really thick bunches either. So I'm not sure if this is even a tall fescue. But I gotta do a little bit more looking. No matter what, this is a totally different grass than the big green Kikyo bunch there and the Bermuda that is sprinkled throughout the whole lawn. Where we live now, here in Camarillo, California, we can actually grow both cool season and warm season grasses 12 months out of the year. The biggest challenge is water. So we don't have water here. It doesn't rain very much, and we have watering restrictions because we're at the end of the line when it comes to water rights or water usage. So any grass that goes in here really has to be drought tolerant, unless you're breaking the rules and watering way too much. So right now this lawn has been overwatered throughout the summer. Nobody lived here for like 6 months or something like that. And for whatever reason, the irrigation was left on all summer long. So this lawn has been well overwatered in certain areas, and other areas of the lawn it's totally not getting any water at all. So lots to do. The sprinkler has run one time since we've been in this house. I've since turned it off because it needs to be overhauled and fixed. But I've got geysers sticking up out of the air, sprinklers that just kind of dribble out water all over the sidewalk. So those are water use things that really need to be addressed before I really do any major work to this lawn. But regardless of the fact that I can't really start doing any repairs quite yet, I'm going to throw some buffalo grass seeds into some small pots, and I'm going to start making my own buffalo grass plugs. So I'm going to be getting to that later in later videos over the next few weeks to a couple months or so you can watch that process and how I transform parts of this lawn a little bit at a time. I don't have a hard plan for a video sequence over the next few months. So if you're watching this is late October. We're going into the off season for most cool season grass territories. Even many warm season grass territories are going into the off season. So I'm not really going to be doing a lot of how-tos. These are really going to be, I don't want to call them vlogs, but they're definitely going to be just progress reports on what I am doing personally to this lawn over the next few months to get it into shape, to whip it into shape. So I hope you follow along even during the winter, just for the fun of it. Step into the sun here so you can see me. This is gonna be a fun project. A lot of work, but I hope you join me. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check in from time to time in the comments. If you see anything in the lawn that I'm missing, that you have an opinion on, you're like, that's this, let me know, because I've got a lot of learning to do. Good job, Esther. Got to clean up after ourselves.